live from Houston, Texas. Welcome everyone to today's episode of What Makes You Tick. I'm really excited you're here. Before we dive in, just a few housekeeping notes to make this a great experience for everyone. Today, I have an amazing guest, and I'm excited to connect with this lady. I haven't talked to her in a few months because of our job situation, but hers is a lot cooler than mine. A few notes before we get busy on the conversation. This is an interactive live session. You're encouraged to participate, ask questions, connect. To ask a question, just drop it in the chat, and I'll bring key insights into our conversation. We'll use LinkedIn DM and a comment section for the event's posting for any behind-the-scenes coordination. So feel free to message if you have any technical questions or technical issues. Not that I can always solve them, but still message me anyway. If you get disconnected, LinkedIn will do this from time to time. Simply rejoin. And we know many of you are listening while commuting or working, so engage however you can. Even quiet listeners are an important part of this community. Thanks for being here. Now let's get started. When most people hear the word salesperson, they picture a pushy, old school stereotype. I'm not one, and this is so far away from the truth of my guest. For her, sales isn't about a transaction. It's about connection. She is the epitome of what I say, transitional over transactional. She helps people experience something that makes their lives better and seeing the joy that comes from it. Now, you add in a little Houston Rockets energy in the mix. We're talking my favorite subject, sports. She's the assistant manager of group sales at the Houston Rockets. Where she's redefined the engagement, crafting unforgettable game day experiences from post-game free throw moments to exclusive halftime performances. Her results speak for themselves. She ranks in the top 6% of her field across the entire NBA. That's so amazing. Off the court, she's a proud mom of 2 grown kids, a devoted wife, and someone who continues to build community through the power and excitement of sports. Please welcome a true force in the industry, Dolores Townley. Dolores, it's awesome to have you here. Give the listeners a little bit about what makes you tick.
Well, hi, Bryan. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Making me tick.
What makes you tick?
I want to say probably the easiest way to sum that up is I like to win. And I like to be very busy and pushed and to be challenged. And this industry, the sports industry, helps me to do that. So I like to, a win to me is like when my clients can be extremely happy. Stop that. And they can be very happy and leave feeling like they accomplished something and they experienced something that they would not ever got anywhere else. And to me, that is a win. You know, when they come up to me and almost in tears and just hugging and just excited, I've done my job and I've done everything beyond that they expect from me. So I love doing that for people. It feels incredible. And it feels selfish because I'm doing it for me, it feels like, but it's really for them. And it's a great feeling.
No, and that's what it's about. Like it's building trust and building trust in the community, which is the Rockets community, and that involves so many different fans. I am a sports nut. I went, and I think I've told this story on this before. I went to college. I went to the doctor today, and he asked me, he goes, what was your major in? I go, I laugh. In my 4th year of college, I said it was baseball. That was my major. In my 4th year of college, they called me in to the counselor office, and I'll still never forget this day. And they go, we need a minor. And I knew I wanted to be an engineer, but they didn't have engineering, but they offered me to play baseball. I literally looked at the counselor and I go, okay, what's my major? I didn't even 4 years in, and I didn't know what my major was because I just wanted to play ball. So yeah, you're talking to me. So how did you, and we talked about this earlier, but how did you get started in the sports industry?
And it's funny how you say you are sports fanatic, and here I am in sports and not a sports fanatic.
But it's a positive, yeah.
It is a positive, but some people get really confused on the two, you know. And I say it all the time. You don't have to be sporty to be in sports.
Mhm.
You know, I remember when I got the interview, and I'll get to how I got to that point. My son sat me down, like he literally said, "Mom, this is what you needed to know," because he was so excited, and he started telling me about stats and players and recruitment and who was gone and who was coming, and I was like, "Oh," I said, I didn't even know anything he was talking about. I said, "They don't care if I know
Uh-huh.
that stuff. You know, that's not why they are looking at me. It's the connections that I make and the relationships that I build. That's what they want from me." He didn't understand that, but that's what I knew. I can learn sports stuff. You can just, I read that on social media just to learn some of
Yeah.
the lingo and what's happening and who's good and who's not. I learned that from there.
Now,
But
do you stay at the games? You stay at the games, though. We've
yeah,
been there. Yeah.
absolutely.
And so that excitement, I mean, you've got to be able to feel that excitement and feel the energy that you get from being at a game.
I feel it just like a fan feels it. You know, like if you
Yes.
work all day long and you go into the game that night, you don't come in the doors tired and like, God, I've been working since 8 and I'm tired. You
Yeah.
don't, you have a whole levels of energy that enters you to go to the game. And we get the same thing. I'm not exhausted. I'm not tired. I feel that energy from everybody else and it feels great. I don't feel like I've been working 14 hours a day, which I do, but it just feels exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, and from the coaching side, from one that is inside of sports, you would, I mean, I'd get up in the morning. We had football practice. When I first started, we had football practice at junior high. We'd
Hmm.
have to get there 6:30 in the morning. School didn't start till 8:25. So we had an hour and a half, 2 hour practice before school. And then school was out at 4 o'clock. We had practice till 6 o'clock. And then I go home, I get home by 7. So I'm gone almost 12, 13 hours daily.
Hmm.
And that doesn't include the duties that we had, all that. And you're right. I mean, when you are surrounded by the people that make a big impact or somebody that you enjoy being around, no
Hmm.
matter what you're doing, it makes a huge impact.
It's
Would you agree?
exciting. Oh my God, it's so exciting. I told my manager that you don't have to ever worry about me being stolen by a bank or an insurance company. No offense, sorry, you know, finance management, because you don't get that same level of excitement when your doors open to the public and everybody's lined up waiting to come in and see your coworkers do their job and wearing your logo and your brand and fighting for that opportunity. You don't get that anywhere else
No.
besides entertainment, but here, you know.
No, well, I mean, that's got to be similar to like going to a concert because
Yes.
you've worked events before. How is it close to going to a concert, going to a game, going to a concert, being there, organizing it is all the same? Yes.
It is exactly the same. You're right about that because, you know, how I got here is because I started out in the event industry. So selling even catering, wedding cakes. I moved into doing event production, hiring live entertainment and bands and magicians and DJs, whatever you needed, and then event photography. So I was in the event industry for a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
15 plus years. And then I had a coworker who moved into the sports industry. And then he told me, you need to come over here. You need to do this. And it was the minor league team in Sugarland. And I live in Sugarland, so it's right down the road. But
Right.
I was like, absolutely not. Why would I want to do that? It just didn't make any sense to me. You know, I even told him, I said, I would go to the games. It's fine. I said, it's 11 p.m. and you're still at work. He
Uh-huh.
goes, yeah, and he tried to explain to me and I didn't get it. He probably asked me 5 times, I have a position, I have a position, I have a position. And then the last time I said, you know what, my sister would be good at that. And she's my twin. So we're alike, but she loves sports. I'm okay with sports.
Uh-huh.
So when I told her you should interview with Scott, and then I retracted it back so quickly. And I said, hold on, because I thought about it. And if she gets that job, I'd be upset because that's my job.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, never mind, I'm going to do the interview. So I did. I interviewed and I got the job in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Fastest time I've ever gotten hired before. But it scared me because it was a whole new industry in my head, you know, sports that I knew nothing about. And I was scared. So I took it, but I also took a second job. I stayed in the event industry because I wanted to keep my leg in there. I was afraid of moving. So I stayed selling wedding cakes at a high-end in a bakery. So I did both, which is a lot of work. When you work in baseball or any sports, it's like having two
Yes.
jobs all by itself. So I did that every Saturday
Oh my God.
for 8 years.
No,
But
my mother did weddings. So whenever like that was
mhm,
her side gig, she was working at Louisiana Department of Transportation.
mhm.
And then my dad got a much better job. So she was later able to quit. And that's what she did. So guess what I did? I did I helped log all that. Oh my God. Like a weekend. Now, granted, there
every
was,
weekend for 8 years.
oh, I can
Mhm.
imagine. We did that on, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, just on the
So
side with my
I
mom.
usually would have 2 days off a month only.
Goodness
Um, to-
gracious.
I know it was hard because I didn't trust in myself that I was going to be successful in sports. And then it turned out that I was successful in sports. I did really well. I was easily the top 3 salesperson there at that minor league team, pretty quickly and getting better every year. And it's just because I was able to make those connections that I had before. And those were my clients. I own my clients. When they're mine forever.
Yes.
And I hold on to them,
Yes.
and I make sure that they always come back to me for whatever.
Well, that's the relationship piece. You
Mhm.
have to have that in no matter what that's the piece that right now frustrates me. And I'll be quite frank with my teaching gig right now. I've got kids that I'm used to building relationships and I can't, I don't know if it's me or if it's them, but that relationship's not there like it needs to be or the level that I'd like it. And the same thing within, like when I was working at Gordon Foods, it was the same thing. Being able to build those relationships was my strength. I miss that. I miss that.
Oh, I would
Like,
too. I get that.
yeah. So I know where you're coming from. It's not about the business. It's about the relationships that you build.
Right.
By the
The
way, one of
business
our
will come.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, and if not, it'll put you where you need to be because somebody that
Mhm.
you're connected to will put you where you need to be. And if you
Mhm.
believe in the higher God, then which I do, then sometimes those times are to help you discover where you're really supposed to be, and then he puts you where you need to be at the right time.
Yep. And here I am.
Yeah. And by the way, Tori says hello, and that hold on.
Oh Lord.
I know exactly, and that you're doing such an amazing job, Dolores. Appreciate all you've done for us.
Oh,
I know.
thank you.
So one of the things I heard too is that look, I've got twins. You're a twin. Is that right?
I am identical.
How did that go? How was that growing up? I know I saw my twins. Mine are fraternal, and I saw them. All right. Before did y'all ever switch places?
Yeah. Mhm. Which one you want to know about?
Pick your favorite.
Wait. Oh, I don't think you can see it.
Okay.
You can
Go
just
up,
see eyes.
turn it just a little bit at an angle.
There
Yep, right
we
there.
go.
Got it. Yep. Wow.
I'm this one.
Yes, I could tell. Even without my glasses, I could see that.
Favorite time? I'm going to say there's a couple. So in high school, we had driver's ed classes in high school.
Yeah.
Man, we dressed alike until we were 18. That was our parents who did that. So we looked alike. So I had driver's ed class in the morning. She had it in the afternoon. She didn't have time to study, so I took the test twice. Once is me, once is her. She didn't have time, so I just did it. And nobody caught us doing that. So that was pretty cool.
Was that the
EOD.
first test? The first
First?
driving test?
Yes. Yeah. So that was cool. And then again at A&M, we went to A&M, and she was an engineer major, and I was a marketing major. And so she had to skip a class. First of all, I had to skip a class, and in marketing,
Yeah.
there's 300 people in there. So if she sits in my spot, it's not that big of a deal. It's just someone who looks like me sitting in my spot. No big deal. She didn't have to talk or answer questions or anything. Well, now comes the time where I had to pay her back.
Yeah.
She was hungover, couldn't go to class. So she sent me to her engineering class. I don't even know what type of engineering. I just know engineering. And I sat in a class of like 20. And I said, I am going to go, because I owed her. I'm going to make you look so stupid because I have no idea what's going on in this class. I said, but this is on you. So I went and I said, good luck.
Oh my goodness. And did you take notes or did you just goof off?
No, just goof off.
Okay, good.
What am I supposed to do?
Right.
I was just there as a plant. No.
That's hilarious. By the way, can you see the notes on the screen?
I see that they're there, but I'm not putting my glasses on to read it.
So. Okay, good. All right. So Timothy says,
you know what else go ahead.
Timothy is your neighbor, says hello. Of course, Adrienne's on. And if you took the test 2 times, did you give your sister the lowest test grade? That's a great question.
He did better than me. No. No, that was on me. That was me, so I did better than me.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you guys had to have been like this driving force. I mean, because I know your personality now, y'all had to be this driving force.
We still are. We absolutely still are each other's driving force.
Wow. What does she do?
She works in pharmaceuticals. She was in the event industry as well. But once COVID hit, we kind of had to steer different directions, you know.
Mhm.
So she went to pharmacy school online, and she pushes herself too. And now she works for a big pharmaceutical company. She moved. She's in Houston. I mean, in Chicago now, but
Right.
she's climbing up that ladder in that company too in her second career. So she's doing
Wow.
really well. Hmm.
That's awesome. I tried to get in the medical industry and they
Hmm.
wouldn't hire me. Honestly, I think it was because I was a little older and I was a dude. I'm not gonna lie. My
Oh, I get it.
sister, yeah, my sister's in it. I'm not accusing anybody, but that was kind of like everybody
I
you
know,
saw was a female in the
of
industry I
course.
was trying to go in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There was
Uh,
another time I just wanted to point, because she
yeah.
was in the event industry when we switched places. She used to be a general manager of a venue called the Hess Club in the
Hmm.
Galleria.
Hmm.
And so she would have holiday parties, and I would help her in her holiday parties. I mean, why not? So she would have like 3 events going on in the same building. So she would hire me, like she literally paid me to just come in, dress like her, wear her name badge, and make an appearance in the smaller events where she can be at the 200-person event that really needed her nonstop from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end. And then I would just kind of roam around downstairs and go to the different ballrooms and make sure the tables are cleared and the lighting's the right level and the sound is just as good. And they really thought Deborah's on top of it. Her name's Deborah. Deborah's on top of it. And the staff knew it was me, but they would listen to me because
Uh-huh.
I had just as much knowledge on that aspect as she did. So I was just double duty. I was just her double and just making sure everything was done right.
Oh my gosh. That is
That was fun.
hilarious.
That was fun.
No, and look, I mean, this whole show is about trust, clarity, and traction. You're definitely defining the traction, but you're blurring the lines of the trust and the clarity there.
No, we're the same person. We're the same person.
Yeah, you know, I can believe it. Look, we're getting close to the next segment, but I do want to
Okay.
talk about books before we move on. I'll let my guest go first. What book did you choose?
So did I read it? It might have been an audiobook. It was an audiobook
And
called,
that's the same thing
I
in my
know,
yeah.
but I read it in my head because I can see the words, but it's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Hmm.
So he is a restaurateur. He owned the 11 Madison Park in New York.
Hmm.
And he talks about the hospitality industry, but how it expands beyond just the service industry. Almost like you and I, anytime we have touch points with human beings, we
Hmm.
are all in the same industry. We're all in hospitality. We're all in service related, and we can always go. It's even more than above and beyond. It's going way beyond the expectations that anybody,
Right.
so it helps to, yes, you're providing a meal or a high-end meal and, in the experience itself, but they're going to remember how you made them feel
Hmm.
based on that. And that really helped resonate with me, in my world today because, yes, I'm in the Rockets and it's a great experience, but as you know, like whenever we are down on the court level, like literally on the court, there are a lot of rules going along with that.
Yes.
And we have to remind ourselves that not to be negative when you're expressing all these rules. You can't have your phones out. You can't have the wrong shoes. You can't have the opposing team colors or numbers on you, but I have to remind myself this is fun and exciting. And it's a once in a lifetime
Hmm.
opportunity for many
Hmm.
people. And I
Hmm.
have to make sure that they feel that first before they feel anything else negative, and so if that book, it really changes your perspective on how you treat the public. I really enjoyed it.
No, and being in the hospitality industry for the time that I was, many restaurants, worked for Chili's, worked for, was
You're
a
going to love that book.
bartender.
You're going to
Uh,
love it.
yeah, but when we're done, when we get done today,
Mhm.
I'll make sure I make a note of it and put it in my list because I've got a list of these. And it's funny because the one I picked today was called The Six Working Geniuses. And it's kind of what he does is they were sitting around marketing one day and they were just kind of going through different things and he takes you through the process of what they were doing. And they came up with why do certain people in the they get in the wrong place? How do you choose a job? How do you get to the wrong place? And then bosses, leadership, they'll generally do is they'll put you where they think they need you instead of actually assessing. Now I'm a former coach,
Mm,
so we're good at assessing where people should be and having to find out what's their strengths and what their weaknesses and putting them in a place where they can win. And I think two of the things that came out of this book for me was, one, that people strive to work in their genius, do really well. But you got to understand, which I'll get to in just a second, what that genius is. And then the teams. And this is the piece that I could really relate to. When you put a team in their geniuses and you've got the people working within their geniuses, their own geniuses, in other words, their strengths, the team performs so much better. Whereas if you've got people that are even really good from players, I'll take it from the player perspective, but their personalities don't match or they're not connected somehow, the team doesn't perform. That goes the same in business.
Yes.
And he basically, what they did was basically broke it down into 6 types of geniuses based on your strengths and weaknesses, but really 3 phases. So like the first phase was ideation. The genius would be wonder and invention. The second phase would be activation, and either you were discernment or galvanizing. And then you had implementation. In other words, you were good at implementation, but even that broke down into either tenacity or enablement. And enablement was not a negative thing. It's just you enabled things to happen. And what they kind of, the way they see it is that people who feel unseen at work discover their strengths, but bringing it out and bringing more peace and less guilt and judgment into that burnout is what they were trying to do. So you fit into this, find your genius, and you fit in, then you have less burnout. You have more connectivity within the team and within the business that you're building. If you're a leader and you can understand that and see that, which I can generally like, tangent here. I don't like the fact that teachers and coaches, I think we get overlooked as what we can do for the business area or the business arena. I'm looking, one of my guys I just coached is now high up in our coached. And then he was a teacher with us early in 2000, I think to 2004. So I knew the guy, knew him when he was a player, knew him when he came out. He is now high up in Methodist. And I just saw that. I went, oh, of course I'm going to reach out to him, see if he wants to be a guest. He's a former coach and it's a great conversation. But when we understand like our own geniuses and the geniuses of others, the strengths that they have, we replace the frustration with empathy and find better ways to contribute to our own unique genius. And I think that was one of the things that, one of the biggest parts that I got out of it. It's a good book.
Cool. Yeah.
I got nothing else to say. I listened to it. Look, today is my 19th podcast. We're almost at 20. Next one will be 20. It's crazy. What Makes You Tick is an authentic, relaxed, purposeful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. Why? We help incorporate your purpose into what you do and impact your life and how you impact others. How do we do this? By sharing business and personal stories to build a culture of trust, creating clear, impactful message as a leader with the insight that can build traction within our lives. My guest today is, we're just having a conversation with Dolores Townley, she happens to work for the Rockets.
Sporty.
No, she's sporty.
Non-sporty.
I just got, so Timothy made a great comment on your husband. I don't know if you can see that. It said Freddy Krueger and the Ghost Act. Okay. And
also, Mr. Tate, I'm sorry, Timothy, I don't know Mr. Tate, we're neighbors. So he is speaking of my husband and I's collaboration on Halloween costumes for the neighborhood. So
I missed that. That was one of the things when I was married, and I don't have any ill will against my ex, but when we were married, we did a really good job of that stuff. Like we were matched up, and I missed that. I really missed that piece, especially this time of year. I don't miss Dolores, when I tell you it would take me a weekend. I had built stuff like fake things, and it would take me a weekend to set up my yard in my house during Halloween because that's how crazy we were into it.
Yeah.
Christmas was worse, by the way. But yeah, one of the things that we're talking about here, and I think is huge. I've just lately have been really understanding how trust is and how trust is impactful in my life. And for me, building trust is not necessarily building it. I think people look at it in a different way. They look at it like you've got to earn it. I want to give you trust. And if I give you trust, then I can find out who you are. And I can find out if you go back to 6 geniuses, if you're that person that's compatible with me, or if I can actually truly trust you. If not, it gives me either an opportunity not to trust you or to help you grow. And I think sometimes in business, that piece is very elusive. Do you ever see that on the rocket side or in the entertainment business? How often do you see that?
I see it often because, I mean, like you said, I'm in sales, but I don't like using that word,
Correct.
it's because of the stigma behind it. But I see people who are salespeople and they are taking orders from the phone, and then they're wondering why they're not getting more. And, they're just because they're just answering the phone and charging a card and moving on to the next one. And I just will never do that. It's just not who I am. And I don't even know if it's something you can teach. Maybe you can tell me something different, but I don't know that it's something you can teach. I think it's more of a personality thing, so I do see that in that. And because from the very beginning, like I had a guy who called in for concert tickets, which I don't sell concert tickets, not
Right.
individual tickets, and he
Right.
had a hard time. He couldn't buy them on the phone because, you the only limit 8, he needed like 25 of them. So he had to keep doing over and over transactions. Just, he was having a problem. I mean, we talked almost every day for a week because it wasn't working. And now they thought he was a scammer because he kept trying to log in, so we started talking, and he is a choir director at a church. I like choir directors,
Yeah.
so now he is coming to perform the national anthem in January for the Faith and Family Night, him and his choir, because he and I got to know each other so well on that phone that had nothing to do with my job itself, because we made that connection, and he trusted me because he knew I was going to help him. And I brought him through that concert. Trust me, he was there. He had some great seats, but I made sure that he had everything he needed that had nothing to do with me. And then it became something to do with me. So I haven't even met him yet. We haven't
No.
even met. It was all over the phone, and I'm excited.
Okay, but when did this happen?
The summer.
Okay, so you met him, so you know him.
Never met him.
Oh, you still haven't met the guy?
Never met him. He's not
Oh
coming
my.
into a game until January. So we met on the phone in the summer and have yet to meet him. But now he's I consider him a friend. Never met him, and it's going to be a great experience. So.
See, but that's like that's what you're right. Like, too many people get into sales, and that kind of goes back to the fitting of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I was in sales, and you asked the question, can you learn that? I went from coaching and teaching. I did that for 20 years. And then I went into sales with Gordon's. Gordon's is a fantastic company. Loved it. Look, I'm glad. I go at times resenting the fact that I left. And then within the moment I go, wait a second. I spent 4 years and I learned sales. I'm not the person that I would have been if I'd have stayed there. I would have loved it, been just fine, no problem. But me, I wouldn't have been the same. This piece, this engagement piece, I had to learn. I had to learn on my own because I chose to. And I'm a different person because of that. So what you're talking about is, can it be taught? No. But can it be learned? Yes. If you're willing to, with an open mind, absolutely, you can learn to engage like you want to.
But
because
some
you
people
start
to be fake. When they try to do it, they're fake. That's
yes.
how I see it.
No.
Yeah. If it's not genuine.
Yes. And it makes it hard to trust them. It's one of those things where there are people that don't know how to do that. And if they're not willing to learn it, it does. It's absolutely fake. But then at some moment you have the opportunity, you have the challenge. And this comes from external and internal, where you have to go. And I've seen it in kids as they've grown. They don't have that personality, and they don't have that connection, or they don't have that background. And then something happens and it triggers. It could be years from now where you go, like, I'll see a kid like Charles I was talking about earlier. I can absolutely see him being a doctor, being a chiropractor. There was another gentleman that I met and had him in class, had him as a freshman, would have never thought that he could run an organization. And then I saw him as a president of a local community group. I went, huh? And you could see that he had grown and he had changed. But it comes with two things.
Within,
it comes with, it's got to be within, and it also has to do with the people you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's huge. And we were talking, look, like, we can talk trust and clarity all day. I know for me, like, I was still in the business of, I was in food business. So we had to adapt when the pandemic hit. We had to adapt everything that we were doing. And now that we've gotten out, it's become a remote situation with a lot of different things. I went into Torchy's today for lunch, and they didn't have people. They had one person greeting me. I could order from the register, but they had the other register sitting up there and you saw the pictures and it was great, but I missed that interaction with people, you know? How do you see that in your side? Like, how do you see it change? And you can tell your story if you like on the pandemic, but how do you see that change within the remote setting of, especially when it deals with trust and clarity?
Well, during my pandemic, I'll go back to that. I was actually unemployed because of, sports wasn't happening. So I was
Mhm.
unemployed for 11 months, which was pure torture. Because remember, I mentioned that I had 2 jobs and I had a volunteer position. Nope, make that 2. I had 2 volunteer positions and those jobs. And most of that went away except for 1 volunteer position. So there was no rodeo. I'm on the rodeo committee too. And then I have
Uh-huh.
another one. So all I'm doing now is just doing laundry for all my essential workers at home, which essential workers was HEB, Whataburger, and Sheriff's Department. They
Yeah.
were all qualified as essential. So I was just washing all their clothes. So that was really, really tough for me. Um, I took online courses in sports management because I've never taken anything like that before. So I decided why not? So I just decided to keep growing while I was sitting and doing that. Um, but tying that into the remote in the moat, I mean, I just have to bring a lot of personality into it,
Yes.
whether doing the Zoom calls or the phone calls, these people that I talk to, they're my best friends. And though I've never met them, I promise you I'm going to get hugs on the first day that I meet them. And they all have my cell phone number and I put it in my signature. And my coworkers look at me like you're going to give your signature out. You work for an NBA team and you're giving your cell phone number out in your signature. I said, I
Yeah.
sure am. I
Yeah.
absolutely am. If it gets to a point where it's a problem, then
You
we'll address
block
it
it.
then. But right, but so far it's not a problem. So, and I need to have them feel that connection to me. Like I'm not hiding, I'm not elusive. My number and my contact information is on LinkedIn, and it helps to bring that connection. I had at
Right.
one point I put on in my title in LinkedIn that I just put the single word approachable
Mhm.
after where I worked because I wanted people to feel like they can reach out to me. I
Right.
removed it only during the season because I do get a little busy, but I want to have that connection. I feel like I need it. I thrive on that. You know, I had
Yes.
actually our ownership. He has a right hand man.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
works at Landry's, and the right hand man called my cell phone one day, and he told me, he says, "By the way, I like that I have your cell phone number. I can get a hold of you whenever I need to." So that's never leaving. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
But,
I just needed tickets.
no, and that has to do with a lot of trust. Like you have to be able to
It does.
trust.
Hmm.
It goes back to exactly what I said. For me, it's giving trust, and then what you do with it tells me who you are. It
Hmm.
doesn't. I think we look at it too wrong. And I'm the same way. When we had our business, I'd hand out my business cards, and now I get these spam phone calls. Okay, if that was part of the side effect, good. I'll block you. Like
Yeah.
when a text came in today, boom, block, done.
Hmm.
And now the phones do such a good job of being able to moderate that. It's not that big a deal, but that is a huge trust builder. And it's one of those things where, yeah, it creates a positive mind. Like I'm
Yeah.
huge on mindset. You have to be able to have the trust. You have to be able to, the energy, and I'm going to sidetrack it, the energy of being around people. And I would have never, if you knew me back in college, I came out a little more engaging. High school, I was a nerd. I was quiet. I love baseball. I get nervous around people. I hardly had dates because I was afraid to ask girls out. Now you know me, like I'm not like, well, I still have dating issues, but that's different.
Can't help you there.
No, no. That I think has something to do with the age, but getting nervous around people, it doesn't. I don't do that, and I
Mhm.
lost that wasn't when I was in college, but being engaged in the Cup of Joey stuff and some of the things that we've done has helped to make that transfer. And I think
Mhm.
the mindset is huge. You have to have a positive mindset, whether it's about yourself or the people that you're around. You just have to understand like what you're taking in, the people that are around you add value to life somehow.
Mhm.
And I mean, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Mhm.
How
They
big is
absolutely do.
how big is positive mindset within what you do?
It's it's huge, and I will mention Cup of Joey, as you did too, because that is huge to me to be around these. They're just you guys are brilliant. I just love being in a room with Cup of Joey people. You know how they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes.
I always say this is my room because I am for sure. I'm the only sports person typically that's there. I don't look like I belong there, but I soak up all that energy because it's so inspiring to hear people say, I developed this product that does this, this, and this. And I'm just like, wow,
Yeah.
it's just like so beyond me. And I love being a part of that. I've even had people ask me at Cup of Joey,
Yeah.
why are you here? Not what's your why. They're like, why are you here? What does sports have to do with any of this? I said, why does it have to do with any of this? I said, these are the people that I want to be around. They're inspiring and they're intellectual and they grow each other together. Like
Yes.
we're just an entire network. Like I've told Adrian before, like he and I have no business networking together because we don't even have the same industry, not even close. But we work well together. We work well together because we watch each other grow.
Yeah.
So that it's just so important to me. I love that.
So I'll make sure I tag you in my article. Literally, I sat down today and I wrote my article for LinkedIn. It's coming out on Friday.
Okay.
And it exactly and here's from my standpoint, being in education, the things that you go through, the challenges that you see, and the positive mindset that you have to have. Right now, I'm feeling like there's such negative energy within my within the building and within the kids, and there's a litany of reasons why, but I feel like two things. One, if I'm going to go into that room and I'm going to teach, I'm going to hold you to a certain standard. Absolutely. But I might be the only positive energy you see in that day. So I'm going to try to bring that as much as I can. Cup of Joey, because of Cup of Joey and the things that we did with that, and because of the business that we had and that we lost, and the experiences I've gone through the past 5 years, that's allowed me to do that, to be able to see that. And it's one of those things like I just can't, I miss that. And that brings me the other piece, like because of what we've done with Cup of Joey and everything we've been involved in, I think our youth doesn't understand their purpose. So if you can't understand what your purpose is and what drives you, if you don't know your why, then why are you going to school? So they're going to school and you've got dysfunctional parent units, which are all over the place now. I'm an example of one. You've got dysfunctional school systems, which are still behind, and you got kids that are just watching. They're 30 seconds in and out. That's it, because of TikTok and everything else are done. So you've got all these things that are working against you. But my theory is, and this comes from a lot of the stuff we did from the book, from the exercises I've done, but a lot from Cup of Joey. If the kids understood their purpose, they would understand why they're there. They would be willing to, I don't have to teach you. You're going to absorb the education from me because you're there and you understand the purpose. You also can plan your career better because you have a better idea of what it's like in a day in a life to do what you do. And what you're telling me, the kids that may see this or the people may see this from this discussion, seeing what you do in a day in a life may make an impact to where, oh, I like that. I want to know more. That connects to your purpose and your why.
Yeah.
And being able to see that. By the way, Adrian, hold on before we get to my next break. Adrian says, what did he say? He said, what do you call your Cup of Joey connections?
Oh, Codgers.
Codgers? Oh my goodness. Oh, that's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. Codgers.
I mean, what else are we supposed to call them?
I know I like it. I might steal it out. I don't know. Look,
another reason I wanted to bring up is that being in the sports industry, which I still find shocking that I am, but with all these major league sports teams, I went to an event, I think it was in Katy a couple years ago, and somebody was shaking my hand. Now, I'm just a regular person working for a sports team, and he was just in awe. He goes, wow. And he was just staring. He goes, I never thought I would meet anybody from the Rockets. And to me, that is so sad. Us being in major sports teams, I don't understand why all the networking groups aren't flooded with us. Why aren't we everywhere? But how many times do you run into another Rockets person or a Texans or an Astros? And yes, I'm calling them out. And, Dynamo. It's not very often, is it? Am I wrong?
No, I'm trying to think. The only Astros I've ever met were local because I taught Doug Drabeck's kids, and he'd play for the Astros, and he lives in the Woodlands. So I taught both of his sons, and he invited us to to his house after we won state championship. We went to his house. His coaches and all the players were there and celebrated. He was he invited us to, when they used to have the Shell Houston Open up here, a couple of weeks before, he had a fundraiser event. He wanted to make sure the coaches knew, so he invited us. We went twice. I'm sitting there playing. Now, granted, it was for charity, but I'm playing blackjack, sitting there talking to this guy. Ended up he and I had a great conversation. No big deal. It ended up being Ed Too Tall Jones, that played for the Dallas Cowboys back in the day. It's just another dude. And that's with what you're saying, I agree. Like, you're just people. Like, that
shouldn't be your only story of when you met somebody from the Rockets. And, you should run into sports people every day. But for some reason, they feel, calling them out again, they feel like they don't have to. And I changed that. When I came into this role, I told my manager, I said, I'm going to make sure I am out there. And I'm going to get out and I'm going to meet people. And he said, great, do it. But my competition was nobody, because nobody else was doing it.
And I call the action. I call anybody that does that. Like, it almost feels like we're too small for that. Now, granted, I will say this: I was ignorant. I was ignorant to the fact of what networking truly was, because as I was doing it, but not in the way that we do it for our community. I was involved just because of being a coach and the demands that we had and the family. I tried to keep that balance. I didn't get out in the community like I needed to. When I started sales, I had to be out in the community, but I still wasn't engaged. And it wasn't until we started our own business where we were out, and that was part of the business development. That was my job. But it became more like I don't mean this in a negative way, but I sucked at selling. I was better at connecting with people. And that's, to me, that's the biggest piece, is building that relationship.
You probably should have just turned that around and, just say you're a people connector, which is what we are. And then selling comes right afterwards. You can tell by the way you're describing it. You can tell it wasn't in you. You were like, I had to do it. And it was just sales. You don't speak about it with passion, because that wasn't your passion, but it can be,
But the funny piece was, when I worked at Gordon's, I had my businesses I brought on were because of my loyalty to my trust through clarity and the way I spoke. But I also developed a relationship with them. Some of the biggest accounts, and some of the accounts that we had an account that was with Cisco for many, many, many years. It's from the start of his business. And because of our relationship, I was able to get him over to Gordon's. Now, Gordon's had something to do with it because of who they were, and their core values matched. But without that conversation, without that relationship, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah. Look, we've got about another 10 minutes. Just real quick, I want to thank the listeners for the podcast, listening to the podcast, What Makes You Tick. Dolores and I are having an authentic, purposeful conversation about trust, clarity, and traction. We've already got some activity on here, so I appreciate all the ones that have chimed in. And look, one of the things that we talked about. Well, hold on. Let me give some people. You've got your neighbor Timothy, who's also chiming in, and Adrian, of course, says Marcus Hernandez says Dolores is highly regarded in the sports sales. He is with the Dynamo and the Dash. So now I have met somebody from the Dynamos.
It's because I made him get out.
Well, look. Go ahead.
It's ridiculous. I even told, contacted us, why aren't you out? I had a great idea that nobody's jumping in on. I said, you know what we should do? And I have a contact at the Texans and the Astros and the Dynamo. I said, the four of us, it's five, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But we should be a force together instead of competing against each other. Can you imagine if the five of us showed up at networking events in pods? Here's the 5 major sports teams are showing up in pods. Where are they going to be next? I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen.
No, and I'll be honest. Basketball, well, soccer is probably less, but of the 3 major sports, basketball is my least favorite. But here I am talking to somebody with the Rockets. Why? Because
I was in your face.
That's correct. Exactly. So you're getting the word out to a smaller, but it's about and I see this in the youth because I'm constantly around them. They've got tons of other distractions. And if you don't do that, you're going to start losing the next generation.
I know.
And who brings that generation? Their parents.
The current generation.
Yeah, the current generation. So if you're out there and they know you, it's just like anything else. If you have that connection and you're able to communicate, then yeah, you need to be out there because if I know you more, then I'm more likely to refer you and to talk glowingly about you and everything else that you're doing. Oh, by the way, hey, I met this group and they're interested in a Rockets game. Hey, let me connect you with Dolores.
Yep. I know just the guy. I want to be everybody's guy.
Exactly. I know. So it's funny because one of the other topics I wanted to ask you about was, like you're an expert in what you do, but you're not necessarily a sports expert. So how do you communicate that to the people around you?
I'm honest about it, to be honest with you. I don't try to fake it and say, yeah, that's the best defender and not even know what that means. I tell them I'm not very sporty. Just straight up and telling I have to read social media to get any of my information from there. And even then, I'm not sure I understand what they all mean, but I never try to pretend anything that I'm not. I tell them that just exactly, that I'm here to make sure that you have a good time and a great time. And maybe you can teach me a few things while we're on the way, but I never try to pretend to be something that I'm not for them because it'll be evident. It'll come through.
And the communicating that piece, but you've developed a more appreciation for the game. Yes.
Yes, for sure. Definitely for sure.
What about the Rockets? I mean, what about the Astros? Have you appreciated anything from them yet?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I'm poking the bear.
No, well, I appreciate that they did not make the playoffs because that gives us more room for attention. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
It does. Look, hey, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Baton Rouge, and the only teams that we had were the Houston teams. So we had the Rockets back then. We had the Oilers back then. Well, we had the Saints, but come on, the Saints. I was through the area where they wore the bags over their heads. I don't know if you saw that. Look, football, baseball, because it was always on, and basketball during basketball season, you got periodically, but it was the Astros. I saw all the time. The Saints were my favorite NFL team because they were right down the road. I love them. Archie Manning was playing for them. They had all these, and we were so bad that Saints fans would go to the games putting bags over their heads so nobody would know who they were.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. That's how bad it was. But I still loved them. It was amazing. Okay, so we're getting close to the end, and the way I love to end this is any advice. So for me, the youth is one, but let's look at an advice that you're giving to somebody, anybody that's chasing their dreams, because obviously you have a passion for this, whether it's sports or not, it doesn't matter, but you have a passion, you have a dream. Any advice or any story that you'd like to tell about how do you chase your dreams? How do you get there?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is to take little steps, stop trying to jump from just graduated to now I want to be an executive making $100,000 a year. You're going to have to start at the bottom, and you're going to have to enjoy it and love it and just see that in the future and know that you're going to be able to work your way to it. And I see a lot of those who graduate from college and ready to run. That's great. Yeah. But what I always tell them when I get a chance to speak with them, and it applies to all of us really, everything you did to get to where you are is not enough to stay.
Yes.
And that's the same with me.
Say that again. I want to hear that again.
Everything you did to get to where you are right now is not enough to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, and I give them the scenario of like new rookies that coming into the NBA, and they played hard and worked hard their entire lives to be drafted when they're 19 years old into an NBA team. Yes. If they were to get into that NBA team and sit back and kick their feet up and say, "Whew, I made it. I'm here now," and that's it, they wouldn't last very long at all. But that's the point where their hard work begins, and that's the same thing with us. Yeah. If you get to where you finally want to be, and then you stop trying and you stop putting on any effort and stop learning and stop growing and networking, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, no,
and I have to do the same thing too. So
it's funny because my dream was never to coach. My dream was to play, and I'll say this every time. God has a path for you, and being able to understand what that path is just you open up and listening, and you get an opportunity just to go, because your dream may not be the dream that's set forth for you, but you've got to be able to do exactly what you're doing. When you start seeing that dream kind of come open, go. And I had to do student teaching the year I did student teaching. I was an assistant baseball coach on the team. We ended up winning state championship. Then I come here. I literally didn't want to teach, got out of was doing sales. I sold jewelry, a great store, great company, but I'm selling jewelry in Baton Rouge. And, I moved here, happened to get a job just by accident. I had to ask for a second interview because I sucked on my first interview. After I had an insider who talked me into becoming a teacher. And then the next year, here I am, I'm coaching up here in the Woodlands. So I'm coaching. And within the second year, the guys that I coached as a volunteer ended up winning state championship the next year. And through that, Paul Goldsmith, Cal Drebeck, Danny Amendola, we've got guys that are scattered that I had the privilege. I'm not going to take any claim for them, but I was privileged that I got to be part of their lives and watch their dreams develop. We've got 2 kids that were part of that same class that are now coaches. One for the first base coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the other one's the first base coach for the San Diego Padres.
Wow.
To watch these kids' dreams come true is amazing. But that's the one thing. What you just said is exactly what they all did. They didn't stay put. They kept going. They had to. And when things changed, that's the one thing about sports that I will go die. If you're in sports and you're in any kind of these, any sports, whether you suck at it or not is irrelevant. But if you stick in it and stick through it, there are values that you learn and lessons that you learn and what you have to go through, the work you have to do that will put you in a position to where when you're older, you can make those dreams come true, whether it's the dreams you had when you were a kid or not.
Yep.
It's awesome. Last thing, younger generation. How important is trust, clarity, and traction for the younger generation? In your own words.
I read that somewhere that it was your superpower. Those 2 things are your superpower, because that's almost all that we have, besides the knowledge that we have, and the friends around us. That's those things that are in our control that we have. Like the other day, my daughter is in retail. She works at Costco. I can say that. She was actually scammed. She was at the cashier and she was scammed out of about $1,500 in cash. And somebody, was going back and forth and was like, "Oh, you're just too much," and they ran out and they scammed her of it. Well, she of course she was in trouble for it. She got written up and she got removed from the register and she was really upset about it. But she owned up to it and she told them right away, "This is what happened. And I see it now. And they took advantage of me." And she dealt with the consequences. And I told her, I said, "Now what you do from here after this is going to speak volumes about your character." And it worked out. I said, "If somebody asks you what happened, tell them. Don't hide from it. Don't be upset that people are talking about it, because they're going to talk about it. It's a small store. It's like a little high school sometimes." I said, "So talk about it, own it, and then move on from it and do everything you can to prove to others and to yourself that that's not who you are. And you're not going to rely on things like that." Yeah. And here just 2 days ago, she was picked for a manager in training position because of how she overcame it. And they mentioned that to her. They said, because of the way you acted afterwards is what they were looking at.
You just
just huge.
No, that's a great
She didn't even apply
story.
for it. She didn't even apply for it.
But because of who she was, they saw who she was.
Yes, and they said that because of the way you acted after the incident and how you held your head up high and you pushed forward, that's why we're coming to you.
No, that's absolutely a great case of building trust. And the youth don't. Okay, so you said something. And it made me think, do you think that a lot of, and granted, I've been around a lot of youngsters, primarily ninth graders, but high schoolers most of my life. Do you think part of that is because they don't want the consequences or they're afraid of the consequences?
I think they're afraid of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was my thought. I think fear drives us to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. And when we screw up, sometimes admitting that screw up is the best thing you can do because it puts you in the best place. Today I go to the doctor and I went for a physical because I haven't had one because of my work situation and because of the things that I've gone through and the financial situation I put myself into. I haven't gone in a while and I knew I needed to, so I did. And he asked me about different questions: drinking, running, exercise, smoking, tobacco. And I had to be point blank with him. I can't worry about the shame that I feel, because if I hold it back, it's
You're only
something that
hurting
could,
yourself.
correct. And it's the same way in anything else. The
Yeah.
shame that you feel, people know, and it will come out somehow, and it will take you away from what you need to do. So the more that you can be trustworthy, the better people will trust you.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
Mhm.
Dolores, time's gone by so fast.
I know.
Crazy. Look, it's that time. Dolores, please, how can people get in touch with you if they are interested?
You know what? If you Google my name, my cell phone number comes up, and my husband hates it. He hates it, but I don't care. I mean, my email address, my cell phone number is all on my contact information on LinkedIn. I use my full name. I'm not hiding anything. You can find me anywhere.
Nice. What about LinkedIn? You're on LinkedIn, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yep.
Look, Dolores, thank you for being my guest on what makes you tick.
You're welcome.
No,
That was
it's been a
fun.
pleasure. Yeah. Look,
Same.
let's make an impact on the lives and communities through trust, clarity, and traction. Let's be
Yes.
transitional over transactional. You can find me on LinkedIn. Stay connected to future episodes and deeper conversations. Dolores, it's been amazing. Please find my friend and connect with her either online, on her cell phone, on LinkedIn,
Right?
however you can. Yeah, exactly. Look, join me next week when we have a great conversation with my guest, Darren Shelton. We'll talk ships and more. Have a fantastic week. See ya.
Bye.